Welcome to the Community Forum. My name is John Guglieltino. I'm your host. This evening we're going to be talking to an old friend of the show. Joe Taborsak is the representative from the 109th District here in Danbury, state representative to the General Assembly. And we're going to be bringing you up to date on what's going on in the 109th and what Joe's been up to in this past year. Welcome to the show once again.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
You're welcome. For those new viewers in town and those that haven't seen you before, maybe we can start off with a little background on yourself as how you got into the state legislature. I know you're a Danbury resident, but you know, as much as you want about your educational background and family.
I'll give a little detail for people that don't know me. You said you know, how I got into politics more or less. My mother, as a lot of people know, was a former state legislator. In fact, I hold the 109th district, which is her old seat. She held that from around 84 to 92, thereabouts, and then ran for Congress. So I've been around politics all of my life. My parents instilled in me the belief that despite, you know, setbacks here and there along the way, government can work for people and do good things. So I always had an interest in trying to get into government one way or another. I went up to the Capitol.
You're a lawyer, aren't you?
I am a lawyer.
Yeah, I was going to get a little better your background.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But just to give you an idea on how I kind of got the politics bug, it was from having a very positive experience around government, being around my mother as a kid up at the state capitol, following her around, and things like that, experiences like that. I went on to study criminal justice at Northeastern University. Wasn't sure exactly what way I wanted to go, whether I wanted to go to law school, become a prosecutor, practice in the private practice, but I pretty much knew I wanted to go to law school. I came out of Northeastern University. I worked for the state of Massachusetts for a little while as sort of an advocate for victims of violent crime. Came back to state of Connecticut. Tried to get a job at the time as a juvenile probation officer, but we were dealing with a hiring freeze at the time. So I decided not to put off law school any longer, and I went to law school and came out, worked with a firm, Kramer & Anderson, a good firm, established firm up in Litchfield County for almost 5 years, doing mainly civil litigation. Some transactional law as well. And then just recently, as of about 5 months ago, I started doing some work for Reifberg, Smart, Donahue, and Nijame. I'm currently working with them closely with Steve Smart, an area attorney for many years, where I mainly do civil litigation in all sorts and shapes and varieties of civil litigation. So
you got your daytime job and then your special session job,
that's
which
right,
is state representative.
So juggling two jobs, but I love it.
All right, very good. Now, can you tell us? Now, you completed a full year on the legislature, right? And maybe we can start off with, you know, what do you feel your accomplishments are, and go from there.
Sure. Well, you know, I have just completed my first year, what they call, of course, our freshman year. So I'm a freshman one more time. Thought I was done with that, but so I did complete my freshman year, and you know, there were a number of things that experiences I had that I reflect upon now, and I see as accomplishments, learning experiences as well, and a couple setbacks along the way, of course. But as far as accomplishments, I had 3 bills that did become law. So
and that's very unusual for a freshman.
I've been told that, there were many naysayers when I was spending all this time drafting these bills. Now, I originally drafted, I think, 12 and filed them with the clerk's office. And, you know, there were people telling me, you know, freshmen don't get bills passed. And I didn't really focus too much on that. I figured, you know, none of us know how long we're going to be here. I'm going to try to do what I can while I'm here, and hopefully the good people of the 109th District will send me back for another term, but that was my attitude. So I tried and I worked on all of the bills. 3 of them wound up having legs, got them through the House, got them through the Senate, and eventually they landed on the governor's desk where she signed them into law. It was quite an experience. One of the bills, probably the most significant bill, was an act concerning municipal land sales and land transfers. And basically what that bill does, what that law does now, I shouldn't even call it a bill anymore, it's a law. What it does is it gives people rights, all Connecticut residents rights that we didn't have prior to this law, to have notice of any city land sales and have an opportunity to be heard. And we had a couple issues come up in Danbury, and this happens all over the state. Doesn't necessarily mean that anything was going afoul, but at the time there was no law.
The appearance of that might be something going on is there unless it follows the law.
Right.
Yeah.
And this bill is about transparency in government. It's about openness. It's about making government more user-friendly to the average person. And what it does is it basically keeps people on notice and aware of transactions in their neighborhood, in the city, that involve public land. And this is important. Municipalities all the time across the state consider, what are we going to do with that piece of open space behind John Guglielmino's house? Well, little does John know that they might sell it to a developer because it's not earning them any tax revenue. Well, you as a taxpayer and a homeowner concerned about how your neighborhood's developed, you want to know about that.
Right.
And prior to this bill, there was no law that created those rights. Now we all have those rights. A city not only has to put notice in the newspaper twice prior to the sale, but they also have to conspicuously post a sign on the actual property that is up for sale saying the time, place of the hearing, so that one way or another, we hope that people are aware of these kinds of transactions and get to have their voice heard. So that's actually the most significant bill, I would say. Although I was able to have a bill passed that was the only bill passed this session that affects the way trash haulers do business in the state of Connecticut. And I thought that was significant. It was interesting, in the wake of what's been going on with the federal case against several area people in that business. There was clearly a need for some reform, some government regulation on how people that choose to do business in that area conduct themselves based on the history that there was there. I was approached by a couple small business owners over the past couple of years with contracts, fine print contracts for waste hauling, trash removal services. And they were awful boilerplate contracts that you couldn't read with magnifying glass and 2 law degrees. And
even a Philadelphia lawyer wouldn't be able to see it.
And throw on an economics degree too, because the provisions in these contracts that provide for inflation and economic variables like that were very difficult to comprehend. And what I heard from these small business owners was more or less the same thing. I was misled. I was, fast talked into signing this thing, and now it's automatically renewed for 5 years. I can't afford to continue in the contract, and I'm being sued by this particular waste hauler or another. And basically, what this bill did was it made contracts like that unenforceable going forward. Of course, this doesn't make contracts that have been signed in the past unenforceable. We can't do that. It's unconstitutional.
Right. You can't
so we're
go
dealing
backwards.
with contracts going forward.
I think they call that a bill of attainder, if I'm mistaken, when you go backwards.
Well, there's a couple other terms, but you're on the right track, yeah. And basically, so what this does going forward is it places requirements on people in that business, the requirements of what the contract has to look like. There have to be certain disclosures so that the person is made aware of what they're getting into, and hopefully that's going to curb that kind of practice. In conjunction with what's going on now, people are more aware. That's a very changing area right now because of what's going on there. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Attorney General He had a bill that didn't make it out of the Environment Committee that had certain components that were like my bill that wanted to reform the way business was being dealt in that area. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him propose some more legislation and get it passed on that issue again, you know, as dust kind of settles in that area. So
wow.
But
now,
yeah, those are personal, personal things.
Now, everybody was shocked in the state by what happened with the Pettit family in Cheshire, and some reforms were undertaken. Can you give us your thoughts on that, and if you had any role with that? I mean, aside, sure. I'm sure you voted on it.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, the Cheshire murders, they're now commonly referred to. You know, it's a tragedy, and you know what it really did. Just my initial thoughts on it, it really kind of rocked the conscience of the people of the state of Connecticut. I think what the nature of the way the crime was committed, we now have created a new crime for this called home invasion, really left people with a feeling that I can't go to sleep at night and feel comfortable that me and my family are safe from psychos out there.
Psychos that might invade the house.
Right, and so I think it really rocked the conscience of the people of the state of Connecticut, and that fear really permeated through the state, and we needed to act, and we needed to act quickly. So we went in a special session just earlier this month, and the reforms that came out of it, I'm really proud of them, and I'm proud to have voted in favor of the package. It's a comprehensive package. And what I mean by that is it doesn't just create a new crime for home invasion. It's not just tough on that one element. It is, however, tough on that. We also elevated burglary 2 to burglary 1 if it's committed at night. Again, trying to address that type of crime that preys on people while they're in the comfort of their own home. They're defenseless, like you said. So we've been tough on crime, on that sort of a crime, but we couldn't ignore what else is going on and why this happened. You know, why are people out there in society that shouldn't be out there? And really, the bubble is going to burst, and that bubble is we have overcrowded prisons in the state of Connecticut. We've been here before. We're there again. We've got about 20,000 inmates. We really only have the capacity for about 18,000. We've got people, to give you an idea, in Whaley Street Jail in New Haven, we've got 55 prisoners to one corrections officer, 55 prisoners to one toilet. We're on the verge of having a federal judge mandate us to build prisons or release prisoners like they're doing in California. And we've been there before. You think, you know, we would learn. I can plead that I wasn't in the State House at the time, because this is my first
Well, they sent it to Virginia last time when John Rowland was in there. But I don't know if you can do that anymore.
You can't do that anymore. Nobody wants them. There are people to deal with.
Yeah.
And you mentioned John Rowland, because we have to understand, I think, where we came from to know why we're here, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. What did we do back in the 1990s? We released mentally ill people all over the state. We closed down Fairfield Hills, which served somewhere around like 4,000 people.
Mansfield.
Yeah. By the way, these places also served people for substance abuse problems. It wasn't just mentally ill. It was people with substance abuse problems as well. Where have those populations gone? Well, they're out there committing petty offenses, either due to mental illness or substance abuse, and they're getting dealt with in our prison system, where they shouldn't be. Right. And this is why this bill is comprehensive, and why I'm a big supporter of what we did. We not only are tough on crime in this bill, on the types of crimes that were committed in Cheshire, but we're showing a stronger commitment to the re-entry services, which we need to do, like halfway houses. We're creating some 200 more beds for people that really need to get out of jail to make room for that violent offender. You know, we should be dealing with these people that are ready for release, but not release without supervision. So we need to put more resources in these re-entry services, and this bill does that. It also provides for funding for another 300 satellite monitored parolees,
right.
you know, with the anklet system that we have in the state, which is great because we need to track more people. We need to get people out of jail that probably won't offend again, but that we need to supervise so that we can make room for the people that we really need to have completely off the streets. Another thing that I'm proud about this bill for is the diversionary programs in our state. We have a lot of good diversionary programs. People that it's their first time in the system, they are using drugs or something. We'll have a program to get them out of the out of the criminal justice system to get treatment. If they get the treatment and do what they're supposed to do, they come back into the system basically to go before a judge and have their charges dropped. It's kind of, you know, a get out of jail free card, but not without any conditions. They have to go through these programs and show that, you know, they've made a sincere attempt to correct their problem. And you can't do this 5 times. You only get one crack at it.
Right.
But we've created a diversionary program for people with mental issues, basically. Some form of a mental illness. A lot of these people, you know, just get pushed right into the prison system, and that's not where they ought to be. We ought to be dealing with them elsewhere.
Because you compound the problems that they have.
Right, you absolutely do. And I'll tell you, it's a lot more expensive to ignore the problem and not put the money in these halfway houses, in these reentry services, in these diversionary services. It's a lot more expensive to pay for them in prison. And not to mention, you know, there's a humanitarian angle there. You know, is this where we want to put our mentally ill people that
are susceptible to criminals and all the things that criminals can do to other people?
Yeah, that are wandering around and,
right.
You know, don't have the support services they need in society.
That's true.
I mean, so.
Now, the new session's coming up February 6th, the upcoming session. I'm sure you've already got a notice on that because you got a notification on this. What do you think are the burning issues that the people of the state of Connecticut are going to see addressed in the upcoming session?
Yeah. Well, going into an even year session, you know, it's 2008, we're a little bit more limited on what we can try to tackle.
This is the short session.
This is the short session.
Yeah.
It's shorter in time.
That means you get paid less?
They pay us the same. Which we could deal with that later.
We won't go there.
Talk about that later. Okay. But I'm working 2 jobs, not because I have a lot of free time. We'll just leave it at that. So we're going into a short session. We're going into an even year session. And the majority of what you'll see from the legislature will be budget adjustments, kind of technical revisions to the budget. You won't, I don't think, see any real substantive legislation. However, we probably will continue on working with these criminal justice reforms because we're not done yet, and we need to continue to work on that. I think that's an issue that can't wait.
You might have to have some sales tax adjustments because sales are going a little slow in some areas.
Well, I can tell you this, we're not going to raise any taxes. I'm certainly not going to support raising any taxes of any kind. And I can't imagine that anyone else is, the way our economy is looking right now.
Yeah.
So that much I could say. But really, if we go back to Hartford and concentrate on making sure that the programs and the initiatives that we passed last year are running smoothly, work on these criminal justice reforms to prevent what happened in Cheshire and things like that from occurring in the future, I think we'd be doing a good job and keep, you know, taxes stable where they are, and certainly not raise any the way the economy is looking. So it could be a quiet session, I guess is what I'm saying.
Quiet session.
Yeah.
That's
could be.
That happens once in a blue moon.
This might be one of those.
I have to look up and check the moon and see if it's blue. Okay. I'm sure you read the recent story in the News Times about some backlash that the legislature received in the new in-school suspension law that was passed this past year. Can you tell us about the bill and what you think of this bill?
The in-school suspension bill. I did read that article, and I was taken back a little bit, but you know, this is kind of the nature of the business we're in. You know, we have to make tough decisions, and that was one of those decisions. But when you look at what the bill does and the intent of it, I think that most people will agree that it's a good bill. And basically what it does is schools, up until this point in time, I believe, could only suspend someone in school, which means they stay in school, they don't have to leave the premises for up to 5 days. Well, we changed that in law to allow in-school suspensions up to 10 days, and the new bill more or less requires schools to have to keep these kids in school up to 10 days. So in other words...
Well, how are they suspended then, if they're in the building?
Well, that's a good question. They're suspended, they're taken out of the ordinary classroom, out of their ordinary curriculum, and they're overseen and supervised by a teacher in an environment with less students, you know, with greater...
like a study
kind
hall.
of like a study hall, but where they have to continue to learn, they have to continue to work on classwork, and they're not home watching TV or playing video games, because right now we've got, or prior to this law, we've got kids getting, you know, in-school suspensions, getting in a fight and getting a, you know, 5-day, 4-day in-school suspension, going home. A lot of kids are latchkey kids because you got more and more families where both parents are working. They're going to go home, they're going to watch TV, they're going to play video games. That doesn't sound to me like punishment. I don't know, does it?
It's never sounded to me like punishment when you do that kind of thing.
And they're not learning at the same time. And worst case scenario, they go get into trouble because no one's supervising them. So I think this bill has great intentions. The flip side of that coin is that you know, when we mandate something like this on a school system, we have to be careful, and we have to be able to revisit issues as bills and as laws take into effect, and these school systems start dealing with new laws like this. There may be unforeseen financial consequences, and they need to come back to us and say, you know, hey, you know, we need help here.
We had to hire a person to do this.
What we don't want to do is cause them to divert resources from something else that's important to cover a mandate. So that's something that we can always go back to. I would like to add that this past session, I worked with our entire delegation, Republican and Democrat alike, on addressing an issue that came up in Danbury, and that was the deficit that the magnet school is facing. And we were able, working together, we had meetings. I organized a meeting up in Hartford with Dr. Pascarella and our Education Committee House Chair. And of course, I had great cooperation and assistance from everyone in the delegation. And we were able to work on that issue and get Danbury somewhere in the ballpark of around $600,000 in money that the state did not have to give us to assist us in paying for that deficit. Well, now, as you've read in the paper, the magnet school is running great. They're actually turning away kids. You know, they're doing something right over there. Right. It's a great school. It's a great program. We got the state to help us out, kind of like, you know, I mean, it was going through its growing pains.
It was startup money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we worked together and did that. So we can respond to these issues. And I think I'm proud to be in this delegation of representatives and also State Senator Cappiello. We all really do care about these kids, and we all work together. You know, there's no partisanship whatsoever when we're working for kids and getting the Danbury school system the money they need. We also were able to get funding for an in-school, a school-based health clinic at Rogers Park. We had some $300,000–400,000 this year to start a clinic there so that we can keep kids healthy and in school, and we all worked on that. So it's another thing that I'm proud of. But it just goes to show you that these mandates do have consequences, and we know that we can react to them, and we will.
Now stop thinking like a Democrat or a Republican, which you're not, but and think of yourself as you were a czar.
Oh,
if you were a czar in the coming year, what would you do that hasn't been done in the past to, you know,
Okay, what would I do?
Yeah, what would you do?
If I could like solve one problem?
Yeah, solve one problem or several problems you might have on your list.
Yeah, there are so many to choose from. That's a great question. But you know, you have to make choices.
Right.
I would probably say healthcare. I would, you know, we still have hundreds of thousands of people in the state of Connecticut that don't have affordable, high-quality health insurance, and I would address that. That would be probably the top of my list. We're talking about
Isn't that
people's
program
lives.
through the controller? Isn't that having some kind of an impact? The controller's office has a program running through there. If more people knew about it, there might be more people covered.
There are a couple programs out there, and this is one of the issues we're dealing with, is that there's an assortment of different programs out there. We don't have a silver bullet right now to solve the uninsured. I do think that Majority Leader Chris Donovan has a great bill that's coming up that didn't pass, unfortunately, last year. I'm going to support it like I did last year, as much or more so now. I'm working closely with him on it, and what this bill will do is it will open up the state pool of somewhere around 50,000. We have 50+ thousand people in the state pool, to allow regular people to buy into the state health insurance pool, and it would provide them with.
Is there an income requirement?
Right now it's in very rough form.
Right.
But basically it would allow these people to benefit from our bargaining power of 50-some-odd thousand people.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that, you know, your health insurance is going to be free all of a sudden, but if you're paying $12,000 a year to insure your family, and I'm going to tell you that this bill is going to knock that down, you're going to have better care, and it's going to cost you $8 grand. That sounds like a good bill, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're hoping this is going to do.
That definitely helps the Connecticut consumer.
So this could be one thing that could help. But I have a feeling to solve health care, we're probably going to have a number of different programs out there for people. I don't know that there's a silver bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
They're telling me we're running out of time.
Oh.
Do you have a telephone number you can reach Dad?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
My number is 203-744-7888, and if anyone has any issues.
How about do you have
questions?
is there a toll number also for the state office, or?
There is, but
You don't know it offhand.
yeah, I don't know it off the top of my head, but the home number 203-744-7888 will work just fine.
Any other numbers in the blue pages?
Yeah, it's in the blue pages.
Well, thanks for coming on the
John.
show once again.
Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank the viewers for tuning in the Community Forum. Tune in next week, same time, same station. I'm sure we'll have another interesting program. Good night for now, and we'll see you then.